Hey guy, how are you all beautiful people are doing? Hope all of you are doing fine, and yes, this is the next season of creating Naruto comics in Naruto world. Akaban was graduated from the University of Arts and Design in the 21st century, then suddenly traversed into the Naruto's world. By bringing my knowledge of arts and my love of Naruto comic, I decided to recreate Naruto comic here. So let's start without any delay. So that's why the hidden sand village will help Konoha sincerely. Maybe it's a last resort. It's not bad that Konoha didn't ask them for compensation, so it should be their choice to send help. After finishing the update for the next day, Akaban left the lounge and glanced at the comment box outside the door. Everyone has different attitudes towards the three ninjas from the Sand Village in the comics who came to help, but the same thing is that the ninja and ordinary persons from Konoha all have greater hatred for Hidden Sand Village. This is normal. Although Sand Village has not launched a large-scale direct war against Konoha, many countries are not satisfied with their methods of picking up and shooting black guns everywhere in the war. TL/N means taking advantage of others. Konoha is naturally one of them. In the previous war, Hatake Sagaki even killed an elite ninja squad leader of the Sand Village. That's why each side has hated each other since ancient times. Akaban glanced at it, and among them, there were only a handful of people talking about One Piece, and one of them was probably Sakumo, the Shichibukai, and is one of the high-end forces in One Piece. A bit of anticipation. In Konoha, the Naruto comic is too hot, and most people's concerns are attracted to Naruto. That's why not many people were interested in One Piece. How miserable. However, he didn't have many feelings. All the good comics can give points. The points have risen a little over the past 2 days, and Akaban easily added 2 points to the fraction of his mental power that was not an integer, so that his mental power reached 170 points. According to the original plan, the test for his department should actually be held these 2 days. However, in order to prevent the enemy's surprise attack like before, he now is busy doing things, so Akaban can't spare a moment. And you originally planned to use the illusion technique to hypnotize the 2 assassins from the hidden mist to make them relax and unable to resist, and then obtain the memory in their minds, but obviously, their illusion skills did not reach this level. So in the end, they could only come to Akaban for help. The ninjas from Kurozuki and Yuki families are very determined. Even if he takes a shot, it takes a lot of effort for him to hypnotize the 2. It took more than an hour to be considered a success. Uncle Yamanaka, what is in their memory? Akaban asked. Kazuhiro Yamanaka sorted out their memories, and after a long time he said, due to the comic, the Land of Water seems to have a disagreement. Oh. Akaban was a little curious. Can comics alone cause differences in the Land of Water? Isn't this too easy if that's true? The Daimyo Party believes that comics are beneficial to the economic development of the Land of Water and make the Land of Water more prosperous than before, so from the perspective of the Daimyo, they are willing to accept the arrival of comics and foreign populations. Kazuhiro Yamanaka continued. But the Mitsukage side believes that the comic has brought turmoil and made Land of Water no longer stable internally. So they want the comic to be banned and even the source of the comic should be eliminated. It's really the style of Hidden Mist. Akaban mumbled, looking thoughtful. In addition, it seems the Yuki clan is willing to take refuge in Daimyo's side. This is information dug from his memory. Kazuhiro Yamanaka talked about the key points. After speaking, he took out a scroll of information. He had to write all these things and submit them to Danza, and the information he handed in was definitely more than what he said. He himself may overlook some details, but Danza can often grasp the details and analyze them in depth. Yuki family, take refuge in Daimyo. Akaban was stunned for a few seconds. This is breaking news, but it is not surprising if he analyzes it deeply. Just like the Land of Fire Daimyo that hopes to control some ninjas, the Land of Water Daimyo may have recruited the Yuki family for this purpose. However, in a sense, the country and ninja village cooperate and oppose each other, just like the emperor and subordinates, minister and soldiers. As a subordinate standing on the wrong team, it may usher in liquidation in the future. Well, but it seems that they had a disagreement within the clan. Some people think that the result of taking refuge in Daimyo will usher in destruction as described in comics, while some people think that following Mitsukage will usher in that end. Kazuhiro Yamanaka said while writing. This information was all dug out from the assassin of the Yuki clan, so the credibility is very high. But still, it seems it's another result from his comic plot. Akaban was a little embarrassed. It was indeed not his intention to make the Land of Water so chaotic, but this kind of ending seemed good. Anyway, it was not his own. It didn't take long for Kazuhiro Yamanaka to write down all the key information he obtained after the torture. The description above was very detailed, without a trace of error. After writing, he handed the scroll to Akaban. It was not for Akaban to read, but for him to pass it to Danza for viewing and analysis. Danza is very busy. His documents pile up like a mountain every day. From morning to night, he probably didn't have much time to rest. Akaban feels terrible every time he enters his office. This kind of workload will sooner or later make him lose his hair. Danza found that the door had been opened, and glanced over with his remaining eyes. After seeing that it was Akaban, he buried his head and continued processing information. Teacher, this is the memory information that was just collected after the tortured. Akaban put it on the table. Danza nodded, did not look at it, but focused on the scroll in his hand. After reading it, he thought for a long time and handed it to Akaban. This is an information scroll from the hidden sand village. It was originally sealed with a sealing technique, but now the sealing technique has been released, allowing people to see the text on it. Akaban didn't want to pick it up, but couldn't restrain his curiosity, and finally took it over to read. As he glanced at it, his face became weirder and weirder. Sand Village is imitating us. Research Institute, Preparation Department. Both of these were things Konoha created. They followed closely and immediately began to tinker with their own things. Their action is really fast. We didn't even notice that the other side skimmed our reserve department. It's really a group of losers. The guards and the Anbu must be further strengthened. Danza murmured lightly. Akaban did not express any opinion about this. After all, he didn't even notice the Anbu of Hidden Sand Village lurking around. It was indeed a mistake in the work of the two parties. In addition, he paid more attention to the Research Institute of Hidden Sand Village. There is no doubt that Shaman is not dead. And their recent action should be Shaman's handling. The bald head with the dragon tattoo is really cunning. But even if they can learn about it, it is not enough to make them worried. And it seems Shaman did not copy everything, but he screened it. For example, the Shinobi School and the medical department, Shaman did not copy all of them. From the intelligence point of view, at most, they have moved a piece of skin. In their bones, they are still the Hidden Sand Village's own model. This time, we are finally sure that Shaman is not dead. I can't think of a way to assassinate them, otherwise you could sneak in and kill them and then use the flying thunder god jutsu to sneak out. Danza glanced at him. Forget it, let's let him go this time. Akaban chuckled for a while and waved his hands again and again. The intelligence personnel have never seen Shaman appear in the Sand Village. It can be seen how well the Sand Village protects Shaman. Not to mention whether he could kill him, it was a question of whether he could find Shaman when he went to Sand Village, not to mention the long journey from Konoha to the Land of Wind, as he didn't want to go so far. Don't talk nonsense if you don't want to work. By the way, at the Land of Water, there are bureaus that are about to be set up there, are you interested? Danza finished reading the text on the scroll and looked at Akaban. With the Yuki family in disharmony, they may be able to instigate them a bit, and even if they can't make them betray Land of Water, at least they can destroy a powerful Kekii Genkai in Hidden Mist Village. No, 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 don't look for me, besides, all the people in the Land of Water want to arrest me. If I go there, isn't it just asking for a beating? Akaban quickly refused. He didn't want to do this kind of latent work that would cost his brain and at the same time run errands. Danza was silent for a moment, then nodded slightly and said, then let Murasaki go. Murasaki's individual skills are not top-notch, but his comprehensive ability is very high, and his own wisdom is also high. Since Akaban is unwilling to do it, he is the most suitable candidate. It's also good. Although this level of task is a bit risky, it is not life-threatening. Akaban didn't want to go, but it was too troublesome. But after thinking about it, he took out a handful of kunai specially made with the Flying Thunder God Jutsu technique formula. Give it to Murasaki, and if he encounters difficulties and dangers, I will support him as quickly as possible. Akaban said. Although the transmission distance is limited by chakras, his chakra volume is already very high. In addition to the chakras stored in the Yin seal, flying from the border of the Land of Fire to the Land of Water should not be a problem. Okay. Danza accepts the kunai. After thinking for a while, he took out an item from the cabinet and said, "Today is Sakumo's birthday. I am very busy and will not go there. You can help me bring this gift to Sakumo." This item is wrapped in something, and it is not visible from the outside. However, Akaban took it and squeezed it. It seemed to be a sealed scroll, and there was something else in it. What is it then? It really made him curious. He held back the feeling of opening it and put it away. Then, I'm leaving. Akaban bowed slightly, then with a hand seal, he cast Flying Thunder God Jutsu to return to the comic shop. Danza was stunned for a moment, and then couldn't help but recall the feeling of experiencing the overwhelming experience of Flying Thunder God Jutsu yesterday. Although Flying Thunder God Jutsu is too convenient, it is better to run, and at the same time can exercise physical skills if it's not that far. Next time I have to tell Akaban that he can't be too dependent on Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Danza said to himself. But his real intention, who knows? Akaban came out of the lounge, and the comics in the store were almost sold. Fortunately, today, Izumi Yamano will send another batch. Brother Yunlane, when Yamano-san came, asked him to print some of the previous volumes. So that we can have some display here. Akaban said. As for the update, it was completed already. And since he is also doing it himself, he completed 10 chapters of One Piece in one go. Yes. Yunlane nodded and took note. After dealing with these things, he was going to visit Sakumo. But the question is is Sakumo at home or in the preparation department? Forget it, just look in both places. Anyway, there is flying thunder god jutsu, so he can come back and forth. After some tossing, he determined that Sakumo was not in the preparation department. And today, it was Murasaki's turn to become the instructor replacement. Poor Murasaki, he didn't even know that he would have a mission to travel far, and he was very diligent in helping Ikeban and Sakumo to train the ninjas. In the training ground, he has a different style from Sakumo. Although he is not top in every aspect, he can say 1, 2, 3 in every course, and he is quite capable of pointing out some mistakes in the students' movement. After listening to Murasaki's teachings for a long time, Ikeban felt that Murasaki was strong enough. And he even feels that Murasaki alone could replace all the teachers and complete the training of the preparation department alone. So you did not come here with Murasaki, but came here alone. Sakumo was sitting outside the dojo, his face covered with sweat. Although it was his birthday, his lifestyle was no different from usual. It was still the training and no change. It would be bad for him to come here, so I didn't call him. Ikeban didn't feel ashamed at all. Sakumo stared at him, wiped his sweat, then stood up and said, "If that's all, then I will continue my training. There are still many courses today." "Wait, idiot. I didn't come here just to disturb your training. Do you think I am that free? It's your birthday, so I'll give you some gifts." Ikeban took out the scroll that was sealed with fangs on it, and then unlocked the seal and took out the fangs. A pair of short swords. Seeing it, Sakumo's eyes lit up. The short swords were their family's best weapon, and this pair of short swords were obviously chakra weapons. "It's called Fang. It's a weapon I got from the Hidden Mist assassins. I think you are suitable for it. It happens to be your birthday, so I will give it to you." Ikeban handed him the double short swords named Fangs and said, "Try it." In the comics of Naruto, the Fangs didn't have many screenings, but the graphics and power are very good, mainly still cool enough. A thunder attribute chakra weapon. When Sakumo took it, he quickly realized the ability of this weapon. Then, Chidori Blade. Zizizi tilde. The sputtering current suddenly appeared, and under the harsh sound, Fangs was swung out, and a burst of lightning burst out instantly. Ikeban, who stood on the side and didn't react, was instantly hit by lightning. And was paralyzed. He quickly mobilized his chakra, used his medical ability to relieve his paralysis, and then quickly jumped away. "Thank you, Ikeban, these short swords suit me well," Sakumo said happily, as he didn't even want to put it down. Although he already has White Fang and the other two short blades in hand, which sword user would dislike his own swords? "Nice. It's good that you love it." After giving him his own gift, Ikeban took out another scroll. "This is from Danza to Sakumo. This is. The teacher gave it to you, take a look." Passing the package to him, Sakumo took it and used the UN sealing technique to untie the seal on the sealed scroll. Ikeban stared at the scroll. He was very curious about what gift Danza would give. Judging from the scroll, it should be a sword. As the seal was lifted, a familiar-looking sword appeared. This is a sword that looks clean and handsome. Ikeban recognizes it at a glance. It is very similar to the one that Sasuke will use in the future. No, it's probably the same one. Kusanagi sword, this is the sword of Kusanagi. Sakumo's eyes widened, and his face with little expression was full of surprises. The Kusanagi sword is not a sword, but a general term for a class of swords. These swords are extremely sharp and powerful. This sword. He picked it up and tried it, and sure enough, it could hold his thunder chakra. Kusanagi sword, not bad. It was beyond Ikeban's expectation that Danzo would give this sword as a gift. It is said that Sakumo didn't seem to be good at long katana before, but now he can even practice the three-sword style quickly, and adding a katana is nothing. Thanks teacher for me. Sakumo was pleasantly surprised. Although this sword does not fit his current style, being a swordsman that can practice a style of sword more can play a big role in certain situations. Of course. To bite off more than one can chew is the same as putting oneself to self-destruction. Sakumo got the weapon and ran to practice the sword excitedly. The Sakumo White Fang, the three short swords that were floating beside him, it seemed. He is experimenting with the linkage and cooperation between his weapons. You keep going, by the way. Happy birthday. Ikeban didn't plan to stay longer. In case Sakumo father comes back and sees him squatting here, it is estimated that he will be enthusiastically urged to practice swords. Ikeban. The sound of Hatake Sagaki came out of the house, and then the sound of footsteps sounded. Ikeban did not wait for him to arrive, and planned to run away. But before he could finish his hand seal, in the next second, a hand was placed on his shoulder, Flying Thunder God Jutsu. It is indeed a good ninjutsu. Your hand speed is fast enough, but it is a pity that it's not as fast as my speed. It seems you need practice. A trace of cold sweat leaked from Ikeban's forehead. What a fast speed! Father! Sakumo bowed and tidied away the weapons beside him. Hatake Sagaki glanced at it, nodded slightly and said, "The swords are good, don't let them down." Yes. Sakumo bowed his head. Boy, I've heard some rumors about you. I heard that you recently practiced the Flying Thunder God Jutsu developed by a second Hokage Sama and defeated 3 mist assassins. How about you practice with me? Hatake Sagaki said as he stared at Ikeban's eyes with a smile. No, I am not your opponent. Ikeban refused without hesitation. Fight you. Your speed is so fast, I can't even finish my hand seal unless I open my main Gekyo Sharingan. I'm not your opponent at all. Your strength is stronger than many Jonins, but when confronting elite Jounin, not only it depends whether you know each other's strength, but also the understanding of each other, and once the opponent knows enough about your methods and ninjutsu. Hatake Sagaki didn't continue, but the meaning was obvious. Once Ikeban participates in more battles and his own attack methods and information are exposed, other ninja plans to counter him will increase. When the time comes, his Flying Thunder God Jutsu may not be able to stand invincible at that time. Of course, the premise is that there is no Sharingan and creation rebirth. But these two abilities are his final trump cards. But Ikeban did not refute it, but nodded vigorously, with a face full of humility and teaching. Anyway, he didn't plan to have a bout with Hatake Sagaki. Only an idiot would agree to fight a ninja that specializes in speed head-on. Forget it, I don't mean to fight with you. I read your comics recently. I am very interested in the Hawkeye in your comics. His sword is very interesting. Hatake Sagaki said lightly. I remember I only drew a little bit about him, right? Ikeban was a little confused. In the battle with Zoro, Hawkeye only flicked his tiny sword, he didn't even use swordsmanship at all, so that there was no Hawkeye's ability displayed on the list. However, Hatake Sagaki just glanced at him lightly, and said coldly, although you drew the One Piece, I still want to say that you know only fart when it comes to swordsmanship. Akaban was somewhat speechless. Okay, I'm just a porter anyway. Akaban mumbled as he didn't feel offended. Mihawk can block 3,000 worlds with something like a nail clipper, which means that he can see the weakness of Zero moves at a glance, so he cracked the 3,000 worlds with one blow. Sakumo explained. No matter what Akaban thinks, if he analyzes it purely from the angle of swordsmanship, Mihawk's swordsmanship is indeed incredible. You are right. His swordsmanship must be very strong. He will appear more in the future. So you can look forward to it. Akaban smiled. Although he doesn't understand swordsmanship, he knows how to draw one piece. The father and son were silent for a moment. As if thinking of something, Sakumo suddenly said, "Do you want to train your swordsmanship?" But he didn't wait for Akaban to answer, and with a flick of his finger, the chakra thread flew out, pulling out the 3 daggers at the same time. In an instant, thunder flickered. No thanks. Farewell. With his hands behind, Akaban had quietly completed the hand seal and operated the flying thunder god jutsu as he left instantly. Just because you didn't like what you hear, you want to teach me swordsmanship. They are really unreasonable, father and son. Why don't you go dancing in front of Madara? Fortunately, he was prepared. Walking out of the house, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. At the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Yuan struggled to collect information on the whole family, only to work out a way to help Uchiha's body not to be forcibly occupied. Patriarch, the Soul Realm is too dangerous, no one has ever set foot in it. If we rush to study it, the risk is too high, and it might lead to the death of our family. Uchiha Ensho anxiously dissuaded Uchiha Yuan. But that's just a comic, and only Orochimaru has been researching it in the comic. I don't think you should worry too much. Isn't you the main strength of the family? How can we fear other people? If we die, we die. These were the words that Uchiha Ensho didn't say, but he knew that Uchiha Yuan would understand it. Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Yuan is very aware of the power of these eyes. With a Mangekyo, few people can forcibly occupy his body. And if someone really can ignore the Mangekyo and controls him, it will be useless even if they study that kind of soul mark. He took a few deep breaths and gradually calmed down. I am impatient. Afterwards, he destroyed the scroll and witnessed the scroll being burned little by little. Somehow he felt as if a stone had fallen to the ground in his heart. Uchiha Ensho then handed him a comic. This is today's update. Uchiha Yuan froze for a moment, then took it and started reading. In the beginning, Gaara from Hidden Sand Village faced Kimimaro. The description of the battle was wonderful, but he was not interested in these things, so he turned it over. It was only until Uchiha Sasuke appeared that he slowed down. Page by page, he looked and read it carefully. Uchiha Ensho, who read it first, didn't spoil him, but he feels quite complicated after reading these 5 latest chapters. Obviously, he is such a good brother, but in the end he got to this point. It's ironic. When Uchiha Yuan saw the end, he was really stunned for several seconds, and then he couldn't help but sigh. Join the Anbu. Too naive. Although he doesn't know who is on duty in this Anbu, if it is Danza, how could a ninja from Uchiha be trusted by him when he enters the Anbu? The best result should be dying inexplicably from the task, and the worst result. Perhaps Uchiha Itakai has been instigated. As the patriarch, you shouldn't fail to consider this. Uchiha Yuan doesn't think the role in Akaban comic will be so demented. It can only be said that Sajuke's father inside has lost his mind. He closed the comic, thought for a while, frowned slightly and said, "What is the name of Itakai and Sajuke's father?" "It seems to be called Uchiha Fugaku." After Uchiha Ensho finished speaking, he was stunned. "Fugaku? Isn't this Yuan's son? This brat, how dare he curse my son?" Uchiha Yuan was very angry as gains on his forehead kept throbbing. "Ha, ha, ha, look at the beginning, Akaban also wrote himself dead. How can it be the same? Yeah, Akaban was miserable in the comic, but he drew it by himself. But my son is innocent and he didn't offend anyone. Giving birth to 2 children, the eldest son slaughtered the whole family, and the second son lived in pain and hatred. Fugaku life can only be described in one word, and that is miserable. If his Mangekyo hadn't awakened, I am afraid Uchiha Yuan would have awakened it after seeing how his son had become so angry." After taking a few deep breaths, Uchiha Yuan gradually calmed down. He opened it and read it again. And although he is already calm, the blue veins on his forehead couldn't help but violently throbbed. If his son is really so stupid, he should go to his death, or play with the scheming Danza. Although the plot of Uchiha's annihilation was not completely written, he could already guess some. Based on the previous Uchiha's internal situation, it was nothing more than the main battle faction that was dominant, and Uchiha Fugaku had to follow the crowd to take extreme. But it is a wrong move. Not only that. If it's only internal, it won't come to this point, there should be other factors. Uchiha Yuan racked his brains, followed by a flash of a bulb of light in his mind. At that time, the Kyuubi seemed to be summoned and controlled by Madara at the very beginning. Therefore, the Uchiha took a big burden as a result of the attack of the Kyuubi. This is the deep reason why Uchiha consigned to eternal damnation. After Uchiha Yuan thought of this, he took a deep breath and comforted his raging anger. If this is the case, Fugaku really has no choice. They can only either resist or wait for death because the village can no longer trust the Uchiha clan. Of course, he only speculates this deeply because of the name of the patriarch in the comics called Fugaku. If it was changed to other names, he probably will just say stupid directly without thinking why the patriarch in the comic did it. Patriarch. Uchiha Ensho said cautiously. The patriarch's face was gloomy and unpredictable, and it was really hard to guess what he was thinking. But what is certain is that Uchiha Yuan is in a bad mood. It's okay. The story is not over yet. When Uchiha's memories are finished, maybe some doubts about the plot will be understood more. Even if he has to settle accounts with that brat, he is not in a hurry at this time. Furthermore, it's just a comic. Although it is related to Uchiha, it's not the first time that Daring Kid arranged the big families from the village in his comics. Up to Senju, down to Hyuga, Akimichi, Inuzuka, which one has not appeared in his comic? What's more, the extermination has been known to everyone before, so when the whole story of the extermination is revealed, the impact on everyone is not great. The only reason why Uchiha Yuan got agitated was that the name of the Uchiha Patriarch is the name of his beloved son, so how can he calm down? However, if he knew the follow-up content, I am afraid he would not be so calm anymore. In the comic shop, Akaban was quite hesitant about this. The content of the next storyline is very important, it involves a very secretive thing. And that is the stone tablet of Nakar Shrine. The Nakar Shrine is a very special place. It is the ancestral home of the Uchiha clan. It was also near the Nakar River where Uchiha fought with Senju. So Nakar Shrine is actually the ancestral temple of Uchiha, and the location of the stone tablet is very hidden. Except for some Uchiha clansmen, the rest probably don't know the existence of this stone tablet. It is easy to draw this part, but what he is worried about is how can he explain why he knows this stone tablet to the Uchiha, especially to Uchiha Yuan. So Akaban has a headache just thinking about it. At this point in the plot, if he ignores this point, he can't convince all the readers. And Sasuke's behavior towards Naruto will become absurd and bizarre. What to do? He has a terrible headache. There is no doubt that if the specific location is revealed, all of Uchiha's people will come to his door and ask him why he knows such a secret thing. So I can't mention the specific location. Akaban took a deep breath and rejected the plan to write a place like the 7th Tatami from the far right directly in his heart. Instead, he planned to use the Nakar River secret instead. That's the only way, otherwise, the whole village will doubt me, so it's better to use Nakar River secrets instead. I asked why I know it. I can use the excuses of guessing it etc. Although it's a bit nonsense, it's fortunate that I have always been smart and was able to get access to some legacy records of Anbu and Senju Tobirama. Akaban thought to himself. Then, he began to paint. This statement is of great importance. In order to prevent the shadow clone from causing trouble, he chose to draw the content of this statement himself. With the idea being determined, he started to paint. After the change, the screens of Itakai and Sasuke's interaction were missing a few, and some of the content was moved to the front. In the remaining plot, Uchiha Itakai only mentioned Nakar Shrines hides Uchiha's secret and did not specifically mention the location, and Sasuke also found the so-called secret through his own search. Of course, these scenes were also taken in one stroke, without specifying where they were. In order to make the comic follow the original trajectory, Akaban can be regarded as racking his brains. Until now, it is no problem. Although Uchiha Yuan will still blow out his hair, it is not a big problem. The remaining Uchiha people and Konoha are relatively friendly, and their attitudes are not as extreme as those left by Madara. But if they were replaced with the previous batch of Uchiha, if he painted it like this, he is afraid that the next day, those people would really riot together. After finishing these paintings, Akaban was relieved and asked Kurama Yunlane to send someone to send this book to Yamano Izumi. Once the update is done, he can sleep or go out to play. But after thinking about it carefully, it seemed that there was an unfinished mission left. So he walked a few steps from the comic shop to wander in the street and saw a figure flashing away in front of him. Well, come to think of it, it's a training completion test. Akaban patted his head. These 2 days, he has been a bit busy, and his memory seems to be not very good. Of course, the most important thing is that he himself did not worry about this matter. The final test itself is a cut-off test, similar to the bottom test, to test their progress during this period of time, and does not intend to really eliminate anyone. Anyway, it's not the final exam, so he didn't think too much about it. Akaban couldn't help being sleepy. He used to think that he wanted to sleep because of his weakness, but after changing a lot of physique attributes, he realized that this was not a physical problem, but simply because of his laziness. Although he understands the problem of laziness really cannot be corrected. He made a choice between whether to go or not. In the end, he sighed slightly and said, Murasaki still has a few days away before his mission, so it's better to let him have a vacation. Thinking of this, Akaban activated the Flying Thunder God Jutsu and instantly reached the reserve department with a flash. Murasaki was still training, he was very diligent, and his eyes that were looking at those genin were relieved and happy, and he was even more powerful than Ikeban in the role of training instructor. "Ha, why are you here?" Murasaki was surprised. As a teammate, he knows Ikeban quite well. Generally speaking, this guy will not come to the reserve department unless there is something important. "You should know the mission, right?" Ikeban whispered. He had already sensed his flying thunder god jutsu technique formula from Murasaki, and it could be seen that Murasaki had already received the task, but he had not yet gone out. "Ah, yes, and I will leave in a few days." Murasaki nodded. "In addition, I remember that the nature transformation you have mastered is soil. It happens that the earth attribute is more restrained from water style, so I will teach you 1 or 2 kinds of earth style body protection. The land of water is mostly water style, while the earth style is good at defense. Mastering more earth styles can improve Murasaki's self-protection ability. And Ikeban wants to teach him 2 kinds of ninjutsu. Mud wall, and the earth release, tearing earth turning palm. The former is out-and-out defensive ninjutsu, while the latter is a more convenient ground attack ninjutsu. They don't need many points to redeem, which is a drop in the bucket compared to Ikeban's points. Then I won't shy away. Anyway, during this period of time, I become your substitute instructions, so it's not too much to collect some compensation." Murasaki half-joked. These 2 types of ninjutsu are relatively simple and can be mastered in a short period of time, and they have a rather strong stone ninja style. His talent is not bad, and he can even be said to be quite high compared to ordinary ninjas. So the 2 not difficult jutsu were quickly mastered by Murasaki. Ikeban didn't let him stay anymore, but instead waved his hand to let him play, and personally guided these shinobi. He hasn't seen them for a few days, but the strength of these genin has improved a lot. And he noticed Uchiha Ryo's taijutsu skills have at least strengthened a lot, and Shimi's body also looks stronger, not as weak as before. Good thing. Of course, he ignored the resentment in the eyes of these people. Well, he was a student after all from that era. Assuming that he hadn't seen it, Ikeban continued to let them train and finally announced his plan to test them in 3 days. After announcing the test plan, he left behind a shadow clone and sneaked away by himself. Because the formula was set up in the comic shop, Ikeban came out of the comic shop and took a look at the comment column at the door. Since this place was opened, more and more people have left their own comments. They have to clean up every time they update, otherwise, there is no place to post them. As usual, Ikeban took a casual glance. But soon, he noticed some signs that were different from the past, and the above comments about One Piece obviously increased. There are many mentions of 7 Shichibukai under the Emperors, Ace and Whitebeard pirates, and many comments expressed interest in the encounter of Ace and Luffy and Smoker's next moves. It seems that as the plot progresses, everyone gradually realizes the excitement of One Piece. Ikeban was very pleased. Although the number of stickers is incomparable with Naruto, it is a considerable improvement compared to the 1 or 2 stickers of Sakumo before. He believes that as the plot deepens, everyone will like this comic more and more, not just those who practice swords like Sakumo and Yiwu who like Zoro in the comics because of personal factors. In short, it will get better over time. Patriarch. Not good. Early in the morning. Outside Uchiha Yuan house, a person approached from far away, as he was shouting while running. What happened? Uchiha Yuan frowned slightly. As Uchiha's elite, how can he be so flustered when things happen? Patriarch, please take a look. This is what Kurama Akaban's comic shop updated this morning. Okay. Uchiha Yuan took a look, then slightly frowned, looked up at him and asked, I remember you were in charge of patrolling and protecting the village. How did you leave your job and enter the clan without permission? Just read the comics. Regardless of the reason, since you leave without permission when you are on duty, you have to go to the security team to take the punishment. Uchiha Yuan knocked him on the head with a comic. The Uchiha ninja lowered his head and bowed respectfully, then speeded up to the guard department. Like what the patriarch said, although he is a member of Uchiha, he is also a member of the security team, and he is responsible for protecting the village. It is indeed wrong to leave his post without authorization. Uchiha Yuan glanced at the comic in his hand and thought to himself. This book must have drawn important things, with how that guy sent it over without asking permission for leaving his post. Is it related to the Uchiha annihilation plot? At this time, the clan was noisy. So Uchiha Yuan thought that what he was thinking was right. Uchiha Yuan opened the first page, and the content above continued the daily routine of Itakai and Sasuke. From the previous point of view, Itakai is undoubtedly an in-and-out brother con, but due to how sweet he is, the more abuse he will inflict on his brother when a reversal occurs later. Uchiha Yuan had actually guessed something. Sharingan is the portrayal of the eye of the soul. When you get love, understand love, and then lose love, you will awaken the incredible power of your eyes, the Sharingan. Whether intentionally or not, Sasuke is going through this process. Of course. For Itakai, it may be the same process. He thought this in his heart, and at the same time, he looked down and saw the hate theory mentioned by Itakai and Sasuke when he was chatting, so he became firmer with his guess. Itakai's ultimate goal is to make Sasuke awaken the main Gekyo of his Sharingan, the legendary power of the Uchiha clan. What a painstaking effort. Uchiha Yuan sighed slightly, then turned back, knowing what will happen next when the genocide is first known. But then, Shisui came out. Even though he was just living in the lines, Uchiha Yuan still felt his difference. This character is not a facial mask. Judging from Itakai's reaction, he must have some connection with Itakai, and may even be a good friend of Itakai. Suicide by jumping into the river, giving main Gekyo. For the people of the tribe, no matter what kind of task, they will rush to the forefront. What a ridiculous remark, as stupid and ridiculous as those who want to leave the village. Uchiha Yuan couldn't help but sneer. They don't care about the last words themselves. What these people from the Uchiha care about is that they lose a useful tool called Shisui of the body flicker. They never pay attention to the ideas of other clansmen, only thinking about their own great cause. The comic presents the craziness of the Uchiha clan. Uchiha Shisui's sacrifice is meaningless. As he himself said in the note, that they have no hope at all, but he is unwilling to throw a butcher knife on his clansmen, so he can only commit suicide. These were just speculations, but he felt that it was basically the case. And he is not surprised that Itakai had already awakened his main Gekyo. After reading the plot, he fell silent. Except for some details, what was drawn in the comics is almost the same as when he got along with his dead big brother and younger brother, which made him especially unable to help but recall the memory that was imprinted on his soul. People who love the village and family so much have been forced and excluded step by step within the family. It's the same drama. If Akabon had not added fuel and vinegar to make Uchiha's internal contradictions ferment ahead of time, perhaps he could not make the determination to cut the rotten flesh decisively. In the end, will Uchiha give birth to another person like Itachi and Shisui? Yes. Itachi and Shisui are the tragedy of old Uchiha, a symbol, not just two people. He took a deep breath and continued reading. The Mangekyo Sharingan appeared, then. To awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, you need to meet a condition, and that is to kill your best friend. The last sentence of this page shocked Uchiha Yuan. No wonder, this is it. Kill a friend and awaken the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan. This is the most important secret of the Uchiha clan, and the result has now been revealed and exposed to everyone in Konoha. How dare he paint it? How dare he write such things? And that's not all. Uchiha Yuan with a livid expression turned the page, and soon saw the follow-up conversation between Itachi and Sasuke. At Nakar Rivers hides Uchiha's real secret. Nakar Rivers. How could Kurama Akabon know it? Uchiha Yuan instantly opened his Mangekyo Sharingan, squeezed the comics, and used the instant movement jutsu, and hurried to the Hokage building. However, as soon as he stepped out of the house, he heard several howls. What's the situation? Could someone really? He was furious, separated several shadow clones, and walked in the direction of the sound source. After surveying, Uchiha Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. The civil strife did not occur. The wailing just now was because many people of the tribe had strengthened their Sharingan, some evolved from 1 tomo to 2 tomo, and some evolved from 2 tomo to 3 tomo. After getting feedback from the shadow clone, he felt really complicated. Although no one did such a stupid thing, Akabon's behavior undoubtedly opened the magic box and planted the seeds of turmoil. But what he wants to know more is, how did Kurama Akabon know about the Nakar River? That kid, could it be that he secretly visited their ancestral land? There was a trace of killing intent in Uchiha Yuan's eyes, and if Akabon didn't give a reasonable explanation, they could not blame him for disregarding their fondness. The ancestral land of each family is the most important place, and Nakar River is the ancestral temple of the Uchiha clan. Foreigners daring to break into that place without authorization, can't forgive them for whatever reason. Although Akabon cannot be killed, it is necessary for the Kurama clan and Danza to give an explanation. He has the upper hand because of emotion and reason. If he doesn't show his fist, they will really get bullied to death. At the Hokage building. Within a few minutes, a large number of people had gathered, including the victim Uchiha Yuan and the suspect Akabon. Very well, everyone is here. Hiruzen sighed helplessly, then knocked on the table with his cigarette pipe. Akabon, who was dozing off, woke up instantly. He got up early in the morning. After all, the content of this book is very important. But if he deleted this part of the plot, then the role of Itachi would be lost in half, which he didn't want to happen. Kurama Akabon, do you have anything to explain about today's comic update? My Takado Homura's tone is cold. Akabon glanced at him, then wiped his nose. He was a bastard who didn't do anything, and the questions he asked were not nutritious at all. Really a loser who can't do anything. Kurama Akabon. Homura, don't be impatient. Danza glanced at him and said coldly, then glanced around with his remaining eyes. The meeting room became quiet, and the leader of the darkness of the ninja world had a lot of deterrence in this regard. Yuan, I can assure you that everyone here did not ventilate in advance, and I was also shocked when I saw this book, so, if you have any questions, you can ask Kurama Ikeban here. Hiruzen took a cigarette and said solemnly. Yes, thank you third Hokage-sama. Uchiha Yuan got up, bowed slightly and then sat down. He tried to stay calm, so he took a deep breath before asking, Ikeban, how do you know that the Neckar River is where the secret of the Uchiha is? The Neckar River was the place where the Senju fought with their lives on the line with the Uchiha a long time ago. And according to Maito-sama's comic, it was also the place where the first Hokage and Madara met. If Uchiha has a secret, then it must be in the Neckar River. Ikeban explained. It's just that, you can't convince me, and you can't convince Uchiha and the rest of the family with that answer. Uchiha Yuan was determined. This is no longer a joke. For Uchiha, there must be a qualified explanation. Otherwise, not only Uchiha, but even the other clans will also have doubts about Ikeban. It's because the ancestral temple is the most important place for every family. Well, about the secret of Uchiha. Our clan has also been standing for a long time. And I heard that Uchiha had a very large scale of civil strife a long time ago. The other point is that if you want to awaken the main Gekyo Sharingan, then it's obviously caused by mood swings, and there is nothing more convenient than killing your best friends and loved ones. Ikeban paused when he said that and looked at Uchiha Yuan. This explanation should be sufficient. Uchiha Yuan was silent for a moment, and then asked, that's it? Yeah, that's all. Ikeban nodded. So, you haven't been to Uchiha's ancestral land, the Neckar River? Hiruzen looked solemn. I haven't been, I don't even know what the Neckar River looks like. Ikeban said. Uchiha Yuan even opened his main Gekyo Sharingan, watching all the subtle expressions and every move of Ikeban. Finally, he lightly said, I believe you. That being said, then this matter is resolved, so can I leave? There are a lot of injuries and patients at the hospital, and the recovery of many patients needs further research and discussion. My time is precious. Utatane Koharu got up and prepared to leave the conference hall. Utatane Koharu, wait. My Takado Homura is anxious, how come she has become so weird recently? This is a major event in the village. How can she not care about it? What's the matter? Ikeban's affairs have been handled, so we should talk about Uchiha's affairs. Uchiha's previous patriarch, Uchiha Madara, defected back then. Is it related to Uchiha's secret? Danza said coldly. Uchiha Yuan turned to look at Danza, and then at Ikeban. He thought for a few seconds and then said, I don't know, I can only say that there is such a thing, which records our history of Uchiha, and the large-scale civil unrest in Uchiha that Ikeban said is also recorded there. In addition, it also involves some secrets. Oh. Hiruzen looks serious. Uchiha is probably the bloodline descendant of Sage of Six Paths. Our ancestor was the biological brother of the Senju clan ancestor. Something happened that year. What do you mean? Danza frowned slightly. Why is this guy talking halfway like this? Did he learn from Ikeban? This, well, I'm ashamed to say this, but the content of that stone tablet seems to be based on our pupil power. And my pupil power is limited. That's why I see very little content, and I don't know what happened. I only know that after something happened, Uchiha's ancestors parted ways with Sage of Six Paths and Senju clan's ancestors. After that, there was only some of Uchiha's family history. When Uchiha Yuan said this, he couldn't help but sigh. After all, the content of the stone tablet can only be seen by the Uchiha clan, and the rest cannot see it at all. It might be difficult for him to win the trust of others. This is why he didn't say it at the beginning. Firstly, other people may not believe it, and secondly, when he says it out at that time, he is afraid that they would think that the Uchiha clan has a relationship with Hokage. Hiruzen were silent for a long time, and then couldn't help but take a breath of smoke to silence them. This news is really shocking. Danza opened his mouth, trying to say something, but he didn't know where to start. I know you may not believe it, but these are indeed what I saw after awakening my Mangekyo Sharingan. No, I'm just a little shocked. Hiruzen put down his pipes, turned his head and spit out smoke in a place where no one was there. All this sounds absurd and bizarre, especially the fact that Senju and Uchiha were brothers a long time ago, which made him feel it was unbelievable. But if Uchiha Yuan made up such a stupid story and fooled him and Danza, thinking about it, it won't be enough. Even if Uchiha and Senju were both long ago a descendant of Sage of Six Paths, what benefit can Uchiha get from this story? Those were all ancient things, and it was of little help to Uchiha now. After all, Hiruzen and Danza are all the disciples of the second Hokage, and they have inherited many ideas from Senju Tobirama. Even if Uchiha and Senju are brothers, they will treat them equally. Just like the Senju now. Danza pondered for a moment and said, Sage of Six Paths, so, the power of Sharingan also comes from Sage of Six Paths. You can say so. Uchiha Yuan nodded. I just think that the Nakar River is the place where Senju and Uchiha fought, and also assumed that there must be some secret hidden in it. But I didn't expect. Akaban sighed in shock. Although he knew this for a long time, it was better to be surprised to prevent himself from receiving too much attention. Probably that's it. Uchiha Yuan leaned back on the chair. The last question is it true that killing your friends and loved ones awakens your Mangekyo? Mitokado Homura said solemnly. However, everyone just glanced at him, then each looked at each other and ignored him. Then, I will go back now if that's all. Utatane Koharu bowed slightly, got up and left. Yuan, you first go to appease your clan and clarify the misunderstanding, so as to prevent some people from causing unrest due to unnecessary misunderstandings. Hiruzen methodically said, Akaban, I ask you to write down your own analysis process and give it to the Uchiha clan to help clarify the turmoil you caused. Yes. Akaban got up. These were all within his expectations, so he had already written this analysis process. But it was too obvious if he took it out from his waist now. Then, I'll leave first. Uchiha Yuan bowed slightly and quickly left the meeting room. His clan still doesn't know what the situation is. If it weren't for Akaban's situation, he wouldn't be out of the family at this time. During the first conversation, he kept his Mangekyo open, observing Akaban's facial expressions. From the subtle changes in expression, Uchiha Yuan determined that Akaban had never been to Nakar Shrine, and Nakar River, so what he said should be the truth, that he only guessed it because Uchiha and Senju lived and fought in this generation. After Akaban and Uchiha Yuan had left, Hiruzen said indifferently, Homura, at this time, don't ask these irrelevant questions. It doesn't matter whether it is true or not, but what matters is our attitude towards Uchiha. And Uchiha has already assumed a posture to fully integrate into Konoha, so it doesn't matter whether it is true or not. After Danza finished speaking, he glanced at him coldly. Hiruzen took a cigarette and said, the key now is to prevent Uchiha's people from doing this kind of thing, not to care about whether they can awaken their eyes by killing their companions. It's a matter of priority. It's up to you. Mitokado Homura was so angry that the veins on his forehead kept throbbing, but he didn't have much say in this matter with Hiruzen and Danza on the Uchiha side, so he got up and left with hatred. Power. Danza sighed softly. As his former partner, he understands why Mitokado Homura mentality has changed so drastically. With the integration of Uchiha, Konoha's power hierarchy has undergone tremendous changes. The guard department was reorganized and the reconnaissance team was established. Therefore, in many meetings, the number of people participating in decision-making gradually increased, and the voice of the elders was greatly weakened. Of course, the most important thing is that Mitokado Homura has a problem with his attitude. Akaban left the Hokage building, and immediately sent the document he prepared in advance to the Uchiha clan. The ripple that Akaban comics brought was not small on the Uchiha. According to Uchiha Yuan statistics, on this day alone, 7 tribesmen awakened 3 Tomo and 12 advanced their Sharingan to 2 Tomo. Although the children have simple thoughts and did not awaken their Sharingan, the increase in this 3 Tomo and 2 Tomo is a terrible improvement. But although it was supposed to be a joyous time, Uchiha Yuan also had a headache, because he didn't know how to explain the problem of the awakening of Mangekyo Sharingan. Patriarch, a letter submitted by Kurama Akaban appeared. I see, give it to me. Uchiha Yuan took a look, and then heaved a sigh of relief, handed it to the tribe, and asked them to copy some. Afterwards, all the tribesmen received an analysis report. A long report of 3 or 4 pages. In order to increase his persuasiveness, Akaban added various psychological elements and worked hard to fill the space. To summarize briefly, the key to awakening is not to kill relatives or partners, but the violent mood swings. Simply killing relatives does not enhance their Sharingan. Although it is very shameful to let outsiders analyze their Sharingan, Akaban's analysis report is very convincing from logical reasoning. Everyone has read it, so I won't repeat it. Here I just want to say that we Uchiha have gone through many killings and civil strife from the past. Even if it's true, should we Uchiha want to raise the butcher knife to your companions and relatives? No. The clansmen shouted and suppressed their turmoil hearts. Uchiha Ensho looked at everything quietly, but he didn't make a comment because he has awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan. Of course. It was only because the comic allowed him to pierce the last layer that thwarted his awakening and reach the Mangekyo level. In fact, the reason why his eyes can awaken is due to the night of Uchiha civil strife. At that time, his pupil power accumulated, and only after reading the comics today, he finally awakened his Mangekyo. And like Uchiha Yuan, knows exactly how strong emotions it takes to make it awaken. If he can, he hopes that everyone will not have this experience. The chaos on Uchiha's side began with Akaban and ended with him, but in another place. In a deep mountain, an old man who was stepping into a dim room was sitting in a dim room. His eyesight was very good. Through the darkness, he could still see the comics in his hands clearly. He looked at each page, word by word. On the side, there is already a pile of comic books that have been read and scattered everywhere. A toad sitting on the well to watch the sky is indeed a good experience, and this toad also happened to see part of the world. There was a sneer on his face. Uchiha's secret. In this world, who knows the contents of the stone tablet better than him? Uchiha Madara is old, but the Hashirama cells in his chest are gradually integrating into the body, allowing him to survive, and he has not died until now. He feels that his body is being transformed by Senju Hashirama's cells, and perhaps, if it continues to fuse, he can gain even more powerful strength, as the stone tablet said. After reading it in one breath, he got up with difficulty, walked to the door, and glanced at the world outside. Madara Uchiha thought a lot. After all, he lived longer than Senju Hashirama, but unfortunately, after Senju Hashirama died, he still left behind the weapons that threatened him, the Kyuubi and Uzumaki Maito. Although Hashirama cells kept him alive, he couldn't defeat Uzumaki Maito with only one eye, weak body, and chakra declined before he could fully integrate. Standing against each other, being one with each other, it's all in one thing. HMPH, so stupid to want to integrate into Konoha. When I completely integrate Hashirama's cells and gain the power of the legendary eyes, I will let them know who is right. Hashirama, only I can truly create an ever-peaceful world. Madara yelled hysterically, like a crazy old man. In the dark, a black shadow sneaked into the soil quietly. It is Black Zetsu watching Madara quietly. Of course, he also paid attention to this comic, because there were some ridiculous plots and remarks on it. At first, he didn't worry about it. After all, it was just a silly fantasy. However, after reading the sudden emotional fluctuations, and how Madara became a little interested in the comic, he also became interested in it and the one who painted it. Madara hadn't noticed its existence. Firstly, Black Zetsu was far away, and secondly, Madara's perception was indeed not as good as when he was at his peak. If weren't for Hashirama cells, his lifespan might have almost reached the end. More than 10,000 points in an instant. Akaban stared at the system panel and rubbed his eyes vigorously. He suspected that he had misread a single digit, but after reading it several times, he was sure that it was true. He doesn't know when his panel suddenly increased by more than 10,000 points. Yes, it is a huge amount of income, but this also shows that a strong and formidable character has read all his current comics in one go. No, more than. Because Akaban noticed that the points were still growing rapidly, although it was a lot slower, it was still amazingly fast. Is it Madara, Black Zetsu? These two figures flashed across his mind for a moment. Except for these two characters, he really couldn't think of anyone who could contribute so many points in one go, and this also proved that his existence has attracted the attention of these two big shots. In an instant, Akaban was feeling cold from head to tail vertebrate, and his somewhat sleepy eyes instantly awoke. I must get stronger quickly. He glanced at the panel. His physique had reached 140 points, and his mental strength had 170 points. Black Zetsu can control others, but as long as my mental power is strong enough and doesn't meet his stronger yin-yang style activation conditions, he can't control me directly, so no matter if it's useful, I must upgrade my attribute first. Akaban took a deep breath. Up to now, he has more than 15,000 points. This point seems to be a lot, but in fact, it is only enough to redeem a total of 60 points of attributes, and after his mental power has been increased to 200 points, he found that the price has risen 5 times. On the other hand, after the surge of mental power caused the special chakra in Akaban's brain to undergo subtle changes, his pupil power seems to be increasing. Although the growth rate was not great, it was indeed increased due to the surge of his mental power. At the same time, a special technique appeared in his mind. It is none other than Susanoo. This feeling is very subtle, but he knows that if he fully instructs his main Gekyo Sharingan, he can summon his own Susanoo. Later, he strengthened his physique and spent all the points he had just accumulated. Due to my attribute increase, it is difficult to control my strength. Akaban took a deep breath. He feels that he doesn't even need to use painting anymore, and with just a thought, he can make people fall into illusion. In terms of physical skills, although he is not particularly good at Taijutsu style, the accumulation of physical attributes is definitely not to be underestimated, but now it will take a while for him to adapt. However, after solving the plot of Uchiha, there is still a small headache. Absolutely. Black Zetsu's existence is very special. He is the son of Otsutsuki Kaguya. It can also be said to be an alternative incarnation. He has been alive from the Six Paths Sage to the present, almost immortal. Although his combat power has not been shown in the anime many times, he is absolutely top-notch in reconnaissance and escapes. According to his memory, it seemed that there was a small appearance during Sajuke's defection. Now Madara doesn't necessarily know the existence of Black Zetsu. Before Madara died, he first awakened his Rinnegan, summoned the demonic statue of the Outer Path together with White Zetsu. After a series of experiments, he used the Yin and Yang release jutsu to create White Zetsu. And Black Zetsu took this opportunity to possess White Zetsu and pretended to be created. It is the first meeting between Black Zetsu and Madara. The current Madara is not close to the end of his life, right? After thinking about it, Akaban felt that Madara still has a long way to go. So it's no good to cause a commotion, so he needs to delete the two pictures of them being together. After a while, he did a series of adaptive exercises in the forest on one side and finally became familiar with the changes in his body. At the same time, another effect brought by the increase of his mental power is his perception ability is further enhanced. In the woods, Akaban could sense the subtle chakra changes in the comic shop, including the change of chakra aura of an acquaintance Uchiha Ensho. There is a slight difference in his aura, which seems to be stronger. With curiosity, Akaban came to the comic shop. Uchiha Ensho did not leave. It looks like he is waiting for him here. Akaban pondered for a moment, then walked over and asked, "What happened to the Uchiha family?" "It's bad at first, but thanks to your report, not only are we at peace but there are also a few more tribesmen who are stronger." A smile appeared on Uchiha Ensho's face, and then he gestured to the other side. "That is the direction of the Uchiha clan." Akaban kept up. Uchiha Ensho took a few steps, and suddenly said, "Do you know Uchiha Kigami?" "I only know that he is a member of the Uchiha clan recognized by the second Hokage. He is very strong and is even expected to become the next generation Hokage, but unfortunately, he died after the war," Akaban said. The hope to become Hokage is purely sympathetic. Even if Uchiha Kigami survives, it is impossible to become Hokage. Yeah, he is indeed a very good person. If he survives, frankly, I was among the ninja who joined the second Hokage summer with the Kigami. Uchiha Yang sighed. Oh. Akaban raised his brows. But my qualifications are not good. I only had 2 tomo when I went to the battlefield, plus with a scrupulous clan, so I didn't follow him firmly. It wasn't until the news of the death of Kigami came that I awakened my 3rd tomo, and what I experienced that day, I again experienced some time ago. And when I saw your comics today, I thought in my heart that we must never let such a tragedy be staged in our descendants, especially the child of Kigami. Could it be that?" He didn't finish speaking, but Akaban had already guessed what the other party wanted to say. Akaban-kun, this is my little thanks. Uchiha Ensho took out an item from his waist. Akaban glanced at it intently. A scroll. What is this? I heard that you also get fireball jutsu from some sources. And this is the great fireball jutsu, stronger than a normal fire-style ninjutsu. Uchiha Ensho said. This is the ninjutsu of your family, it's inappropriate, you should put it away. Akaban's heart moved for a second or two, then decisively refused. Fire style usually needs to spit out through the mouth. During practice, the highly concentrated chakra will burn the mouth. For example, if he practiced frequently like how Sasuke did in the comic, it would definitely burn his mouth. The difficulty of fire style ninjutsu is not high, and it is easy to change in the comics. But doing it in reality. Sorry, I don't have the courage to spit fire. This. Well, if you need my help, please just say, as for my ineffective child, please also take care of him for me. Uchiha Ensho heard Akaban's reluctance, so he put away the scroll, planning to find another gift. It's nothing. Uchiha Ensho left. He seemed very happy, but his mood was also melancholy for their clan. The awakening process of Mangekyo Sharingan was not very pleasant. In addition to Uchiha, the other family is also unhappy. Hyuga family. They are quite melancholy now. Since Akaban's comics have become more and more popular, they have also read the Uchiha clan from being squeezed out to now being integrated into Konoha, and then to now. Uchiha's strength did not decline due to internal friction but only got better than before. Fortunately, there is no need to fight with Uchiha. Meizazu Hyuga, the patriarch of the clan, couldn't help but sigh lightly. On this day, many people in the village could not expand safely. Konoha's senior management was dealing with the things underneath, while Uchiha was dealing with ideological issues within the clan, and other families were busy collecting information on Uchiha. However, the attitude of ordinary villagers towards Uchiha seems to have improved a lot. At first, everyone thought Itakai was a hateful role, but now everyone understands that this is the elder brother who loves his younger brother so much that he even sacrifices his flesh and blood for him without hesitation. Uchiha is loving, understands love, and is stronger than anyone else. After the comics have been released, Uchiha may become the biggest winner. On that day, Akaban slept in an uneasy sleep. He dreamed that his Sharingan was exposed, and Madara came to his door to dig out his eyes, saying that he was the most suitable person to rule the world and wanted to support him as the king of the ninja world. Although it was a dream, he still felt uncomfortable, and today is the time for the special training to end their session. After thinking about it for a long time, Akaban decided to get up to train. At the same time, at the reserve department training ground, the ninjas train as usual, and what they are most looking forward to is today's test. After the test, they can become official preparation ninjas, at least they think so. In the dark, a black shadow slowly emerged from the soil, and then quickly dived back into the soil. Not here. He lurked on the earth, thinking about where to go next. Konoha has Uzumaki Mito. Although he has absolute confidence in hiding, to prevent accidents, he will not set foot in the village when necessary. As he was about to leave, he suddenly sensed the appearance of an aura. And it is quite a strong aura. Black Zetsu searched in secret, and it didn't take long to find the source of the aura. A ninja who was over 13 years old who looked more mature than he looked, and he couldn't tell from his appearance alone that the strong aura he sensed was coming from this child. But thinking about it, it seems he appeared suddenly. Don't tell me, the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Akaban, is the test going on as usual today? Shiranyu Ryosuke, who didn't notice the existence of Black Zetsu, said the moment he noticed Akaban emerged, he immediately came to ask about today's arrangements. Yes, we'll do it as usual. Akaban nodded. Without ending the test, this trip today will be a waste of time. He is Kurama Akaban. Black Zetsu was shocked. Has the Kurama clan researched any forbidden drugs? That they actually gave birth to such a strong Kekii Genkai awakener. Akaban also hadn't noticed Black Zetsu for the time being, but when he summoned the little dream to purr and let it use the secret jutsu to penetrate his mental power, he sensed a subtle difference. It's unspeakably weird, as if someone was peeking secretly. At that moment, he sensed something wrong, but now the weird feeling disappeared instantly. Someone was watching him. Akaban frowned slightly and glanced at the place he felt where someone was peeking. But nothing has changed, no one was over there, but he won't doubt his feelings, so he is sure that someone was really watching him. In fact, when he sensed it, Black Zetsu had already changed positions instantly. What an amazing perception ability, I was almost exposed. This kind of summoned beast, is it a dream to purr? Black Zetsu watched quietly from the side. The dream to purr is a silly and troublesome creature, no wonder he was almost noticed. Generally speaking, his hidden ability is impossible to be noticed. Just now, he was just too careless and didn't consider the secret technique of the dream to purr, and his slight fluctuation of emotions caused Akaban to perceive his existence. However, this guy would definitely not care about changing positions instantly. Black Zetsu stared at the distance, quietly observing the actions of Akaban and the genins, and after a few glances, it seemed that it was just a boring genin training. With that kind of strength, he is actually responsible for training the genin. Black Zetsu stared for a moment and took out a comic. In order to get to Konoha as soon as possible, he only read half of it, so he began to read it again while observing. Anyway, with his ability, distraction is not a problem. In the training ground in the distance, Akaban frowned slightly. He always felt something was wrong, but he couldn't sense anything. But it must be Black Zetsu. Regardless of whether it is or not, he decided that it should be him. But he can't find Black Zetsu's location right now, so he can only ignore him temporarily as if he doesn't exist, but he is still secretly trying to find him. Akaban thought for a moment, winked at the others, and then made a hand-sealed genjutsu to release genjutsu. In fact, he now doesn't need hand seals to use the illusory domain game. These seals are just secret signs, telling others to be careful. Enemies. Shiranyu Ryosuke was slightly frowning, and then he saw that Akaban used a secret signal to make them bide one's time, ready to awaken the students at any time and take them to retreat. What's the situation? He doesn't quite understand what's happening, but as a battlefield veteran, he understands that if he doesn't understand, it's all right as long as the above decision is okay, then just follow the instructions from higher up. Just like now. Everyone in the illusion has no resistance. In case there is an accident, it is definitely a more appropriate emergency plan to wake them up to take cover and evacuate. The illusion is released and a group of people are drawn into the illusionary battlefield. Black Zetsu in the distance was stunned for a moment, sensing how the kid released this large-scale genjutsu to the genins. What is this operation? It seems to be a kind of training. Black Zetsu was stunned for a few seconds, and after careful consideration, he somewhat guessed the possible effect of this technique. How can that kid release that kind of large-scale genjutsu to the genins when they are the future of the Konoha? So the only answer was that it was for training. Training with illusion. What a strange idea. It's really stupid, but it's not bad to have such an interesting guy in the long years. Black Zetsu put away the comic book in his hand and prepared to leave. However, at this moment, he sensed an aggressive aura appearing beside him out of thin air. That kid. He was slightly startled and saw Ikeban smash the trees beside him with a punch. But Black Zetsu slipped very fast and instantly escaped underground. No one. That's weird. It seems I was thinking too much. Ikeban frowned slightly. After using genjutsu just now, his little dream to purr absorbs the mental power of those ninjas in the illusory domain. And when he is in the mental power link state, he gets a significant increase, plus some special inductions of the dream to purr on emotions, thoughts and spiritual bodies. He finally noticed the fuzzy position that made him feel uncomfortable. It happened that there was a former Flying Thunder God Jutsu imprint on the side, so he used Shadow Clone on the spot, and the true body flew here instantly. Although it was a pity that he didn't catch it, Ikeban's goal has been achieved. Just now, when he mutters nobody, it was purely for Black Zetsu, making Black Zetsu mistakenly think that he was attacking here because of his perception and intuitive judgment. This kind of escape speed, only Black Zetsu can do it. Ikeban knew it clearly. He actually saw a dark shadow quickly sinking into the ground just now, but he was pretending not to see it. Because after thinking about it, without exposing his Sharingan plus, why he has knowledge about Black Zetsu, there seemed to be no direct means to attack Black Zetsu. As Hatake Sagaki said, keeping your cards under appropriate circumstances will help you defeat your opponents at critical moments. After considering it for a long time, he did not choose to attack Black Zetsu but only used his fist. The feeling of being watched is always uncomfortable. If appropriate, he must be warned, otherwise, Black Zetsu will think he is a muddy mass and could need it at will. This warning should make Black Zetsu worry about it. Ikeban thought in his heart. My lord, just now. I don't know, maybe I feel wrong. Ikeban continued to act, and then let the ninja clean up the fallen trees, and then went back to continue to control the illusion. Shiranui Ryosuke squatted down awkwardly and looked carefully among the remains of the tree. This is definitely not a punch out of thin air, but a strong goal. Someone was here just now, right? Ryosuke-san. You guys help deal with it, I will continue to take charge of the affairs over there. He stood up laboriously and returned to Ikeban. In the illusion, the entire group follows the route from Land of Fire to Hidden Whirlpool's village. This is a great fantasy. Everyone was assigned together. Because of Narashimi's excellent command before, it didn't take long for everyone to decide to assign Shimi as the commander and let him allocate tasks. They have made great progress, mainly in terms of teamwork, and they have made great progress. Even Uchiha Ryo could form a perfect collaboration with everyone. Everyone sang forward and quickly reached the vicinity of Whirlpool Village. However, the battle has just begun. My lord, if we also enter the illusory domain, wouldn't there be no one to guard it outside? Ryosuke was a little worried. You don't have to worry about it, there should be no one attacking us, and there is the Anbu ninja if that happens. Ikeban said as opened the viewing room. To be honest, even he doesn't know how much this group has improved in a month. After all, this month, he only took charge of training for half of the time, and Sakumo and Murasaki were in charge of the rest of the time, but up to the present position, these genins have done a good job. In terms of strength, at least there is an elite genin level ninja, and the strongest can already compete with Chunin. In fact, Shimi has the ability to become a Chunin. As long as his strength is stronger, he will basically become Chunin 100% after taking the Chunin exam. Ryosuke whispered. He is from Nara clan. After all, there are always a few very smart people in each generation. Akaban said. Everyone has entered Hidden Whirlpool's village, ready to withdraw. He has greatly compressed the plot. In fact, the battle in Hidden Whirlpool's village lasted for 3 days. Within 3 days, those rebels had not stopped their offensive, but the genius that gathered had not been able to rush out. In the end, the defense of the Uzumaki clan was broken before opening a hole from the encirclement. Some people still can't support it till the end. Some died in battle, while others died to cover their companions, such as Might Dewey. In order to cover the evacuation of the large forces, he even opens the 4th gate of the 8 inner gates and displayed the reverse lotus in the illusory domain. This child does have the potential for 8 inner gates. After a test, everyone exhibited their best that made Akaban very satisfied. Towards the end of the test, Akaban left a shadow clone and returned to the village by himself. Everything is harmonious in the village. After Akaban returned to the village, he did not go to other places but went to Uzumaki Maito for the first time. With Black Zetsu appearance, he can use this time to remind her. Senju clan. As usual, Uzumaki Maito taught the 10 Uzumaki kids to learn the sealing technique. She still looked 30 years old, and she looked very beautiful, but he doesn't know why. At this meeting, Akaban felt that she seemed to be older than before. Is it because my mental power has become stronger? Akaban was taken aback for a moment, watching from a distance outside the door that he did not enter. Uzumaki Maito pretended not to notice him, and gently taught out some tricks of their sealing technique to the children. After a few seconds, the course seemed to be over. You continue to practice, and you must quickly master these precious sealing techniques. Uzumaki Maito said gently. Yes, Grandma Maito. Everyone responded in unison. Uzumaki Maito came out of the yard, walking slowly, like a normal old lady, but her appearance was still beautiful. Akaban was silent. The closer she gets, the more he can feel the weakness of this powerful female ninja of the same generation of the first Hokage and Madara. Don't look at me with that kind of expression, I'm a little old after all. Uzumaki Maito said lightly. You. Akaban was stunned. Does she know he can feel these? Let's go, walk with me for a while. Uzumaki Maito smiled. Akaban kept up, and Uzumaki Maito didn't say anything here, indicating that she didn't want others to know what she will say next. Senju clan's clan land itself is relatively remote. After walking out of the clan land trail, they will reach the forest. From here, they can even see the Nakar River. Make River, it is said that Hashirama and Madara met by the river there before. Uzumaki Maito pointed to the distance and said. Really, it is said that the two clans fought here before. Akaban said. That's right, the endless war has long been ended between two heroes, Hashirama and Madara. Both of them long for peace and don't want to have war, but unfortunately, there are subtle differences in their concepts. Uzumaki Maito sighed, and then said, Akaba, peace can never be achieved by one person. It requires everyone to work together and everyone to give their love together. I hope you can be another Hashirama and not another Madara. Comparing me with characters like the first generation Hokage-sama and Madara, you really think of me highly. Akaban was ashamed. Such an evaluation. You have this potential. For example, you have become stronger this time, and you can even sense the aging of my body. Uzumaki Maito smiled lightly. When I am old enough, you can continue to protect the village instead of me. This is the will of fire that withered leaves and leave a new leaves sprout. Grandma Maito. Akaban said her name and then didn't know what to say. This smart and great female ninja realized that he was different. Even though she didn't know where these powers came from, she still pinned her hopes on himself without asking anything. Speaking of which, are you looking for me? Uzumaki Maito only remembered that if this guy had nothing to do, he would never come to the Senju clan to hang out. From his disposition, something must have happened. In the reserve department, I may have encountered a guy with terrible hiding ability. I can't judge his ability for the time being, but he is very strong in escape and hiding, so I come to your side to remind you to pay attention. Akaban said. Uzumaki Maito was stunned, and then remembered something. After a long period of thought, she asked, if he has a strong hiding ability, how did you detect it? I'm not sure, it just feels very uncomfortable, but after approaching, with the help of my dream to per secret jutsu, I did sense the existence of spiritual energy, so I can be sure that someone is hiding there. Akaban explained. Feeling uncomfortable. I have felt this way before. It was the eve of Uchiha Madara's defect, and he came to find Hashirama. I felt a little uncomfortable at the time, but that feeling quickly disappeared, and I didn't care about it. At that time, Uzumaki Maito was very confident in her perception ability. Since she could not sense it, it was regarded as an illusion. If Akaban's discovery is the same as what she felt at the time. When Uzumaki Maito thought of this, her whole body shivered. Could it be that Madara's defect was controlled by another person from beginning to end? That's how things happened back then. What Hashirama said to Madara when he left? Actually, I also don't know. He was tight-lipped about what happened during that time, and it was useless for his brother to even ask. After being shocked, Uzumaki Maito began to talk about the things of the year. Akaban listens and compares the plot. Judging by the time, it should be Uchiha Madara has not completely defected, but before taking Senju Hashirama to Nakar Shrine to see the stone tablet. After that, Madara went to the jungle to catch the Kyuubi. That is to say, from then on, Black Zetsu has been monitoring Madara's every move, until the old Madara awakened his Rinnegan, then summoned the demonic statue of the outer path, and he appeared. You have a thoughtful look, what did you guess? I'm wondering whether the feeling you are talking about is the same as mine. If this is the case, his strength and purpose. Akaban tried to lead Uzumaki Maito to think this way. Uzumaki Maito had already thought about it, but she couldn't believe her guess. If all this was a conspiracy by others, then what was Madara insisting on? Fortunately, Madara didn't know this. It's better to die in the dark than to close your eyes knowing all the pain. No matter what his purpose is, we must be careful in the future. He is likely to hide behind the initiator. Yes. Akaban nodded and followed Uzumaki Maito back to the Senju clan from the forest. His purpose is achieved, he does not intend to stay. Uzumaki Maito didn't mean to stay. With such a dangerous person, Akaban really shouldn't waste time staying on her side. Many people need to be notified, such as the third Hokage and Danza. Although Black Zetsu has a very strong hiding ability, that even Uzumaki Maito, Akaban and other ninjas with terrifying perception ability only slightly feel something was wrong, but the Hokage must be made aware of the existence of such a person. Danza and the third Hokage quickly got news from Akaban. In order to prevent too many people from knowing, Akaban used his genjutsu especially to broadcast the previous events in the illusion and let them judge by themselves. The two of them will judge what to do. After busying himself, Akaban also got feedback from the clone. The special training of the reserve department has ended. Although everyone's mission failed in the end, everyone played a significant role in the battle. Therefore, it was determined that all members passed the test and could officially enter the reserve department. It's about time to start writing reports again. Akaban took out a piece of paper with a headache. With the return of his shadow clone, everyone also gave feedback on the performance and evaluation of the genins, but the opinions of the other instructors were not good, and some genins with talent were obviously wasted. After summoning another shadow clone to continue to draw comics, he can only do it himself. Yamano Izumi shipped late this time, so he just added a little bit to update the comic to the end of the first one. But hey, I remember that I have to draw the Akatsuki for a meeting, in the end, right? Seems so. Akaban had just written part of the report and stopped when he heard his shadow clone asking. Rinnegan. In addition, there seems to be Akatsuki's overall goal, collecting tailed beast and the like in 3 years. Thinking about it, Akaban was lost in thought. Having the experience of Sharingan, he has deeply understood the huge pit that may exist in the system Rinnegan if he exchanged it out. If he can't bear the consumption and can't deactivate it, he will just dig a huge pit for himself to jump. If Rinnegan is not needed in a short time, it seems unnecessary to draw it, but due to the plot. Akaban took a deep breath. What the Akatsuki wants to do must be written clearly. As for Rinnegan, I have no good way to locate Black Zetsu for the time being. When I can truly sense his position, I will hunt him down for 3 days and 3 nights. After hearing the harsh words, his clone sighed softly. The only audience was him, and they knew each other's personalities. So there should be no need to say something so tragically, but it does express the aspirations of the shadow clone. After drawing this plot, the first plot is officially over. The next one is Shippuden. In fact, even if he accomplished drawing the Rinnegan, it will appear sooner or later in the Shippuden. And Akaban also knew that, but he still did it to gain time for him to become stronger. He just met with Black Zetsu, and he knew he could not find the other party. Although Black Zetsu escaped smoothly and couldn't effectively sense the opponent's position, it would be too passive to attack rashly. As for Madara, Akaban was not worried. According to the comics, Madara does not have the Rinnegan until he is about to die. This shows that the miraculous effect of Hashirama cells is not achieved overnight, but step by step. If he has the ability to come out and do things, Madara has already run out to collect tail beasts himself, so why wait until his next life? Of course. Judging from the acquisition of points, Madara still has a very strong fighting strength. As long as he is not stupid enough to send it to the door, he can't help it. It's done, the report is complete. You wait for Yamano-san to come here, and I will hand in the report first. Akaban didn't wait for the shadow clone to answer, and just left Flying Thunder God Jutsu directly. Since the news of him comprehending the Flying Thunder God Jutsu became public, he has left marks in several places that he often walked around in Konoha, including the coordinates of the Hokage building. He flew to the Hokage building in an instant and then climbed up to the third floor directly to the third Hokage office. This jutsu is really convenient. However, if Tobirama Hashirama knows that the thrust and assassination ninjutsu he worked so hard to develop was mainly used in this guy's hands to save walking time, then I am afraid that he will be resurrected from anger. Third Hokage-sama, this is my report on the completion of the special training. Akaban opened the door and put the report on the desk. Let me see. Hiruzen picked it up and took a look. He originally thought there would be a training process on it, but when he took a look, he only saw a page with a brief process of the exam and a list of members who can be promoted. Nurashimi team originally only had Nurashimi qualified for promotion, but taking into account the cooperative ability of Inoshikacho, coupled with the performance of Yamanaka Take and Akimichi Keiju, we should let them under comprehensive consideration and let them all be promoted without training in the preparation department. Akaban explained. Nurashimi, this boy showed high commanding ability in the first test. It should be said, he really deserves to be from the Nara clan. Hiruzen was a little bit emotional. Since the Nara clan joined Konoha, one or two very clever guys have appeared in each generation, who can always provide great help to the village. Uchai Haruo, this child, can we expect something from him? There is no problem with strength, and also in training. The last time when he read Kakashi's story, he had awakened his Tutamo. In addition, if you want, I can let you watch the replay in the illusory domain. Akaban said. He only learned about this during the test. After all, he hasn't managed the preparation department at all these days. Okay. Hiruzen lay down and waited for Akaban to perform the operation. Before the change, Akaban had to rely on painting, but now it is no longer needed, and this is also a test. If he can start it directly, it means his mental power is greater than the third Hokage. He prepared for a while, and then directly activated the illusion, which is success. Akaban breathed a sigh of relief. With 200 points of mental power, it seemed to be quite powerful. But it is not enough. Hiruzen browsed the illusion process at twice the speed. After watching everything, he automatically escaped from the illusion. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Akaban sitting aside, playing with the crystal ball he used daily. Boy, what are you doing? Looking at the baby you use for peeking every day. Don't be so nervous, I'm not Tsunade, I won't break it. Akaban put the crystal ball back. Hiruzen's old face blushed slightly, put it away, and coughed lightly and said, how would I use it to do such nasty things? Okay, let's not talk nonsense, I basically agree with the people you listed, but there is one. It's about the 8 inner gates, right? I have been teaching it according to the concept in the comic. Only when guarding companions and the village can they use the 8 inner gates. Without the third Hokage continuing, Akaban knew what he was going to say. Very good. Looking at the scene in the illusory domain, Hiruzen has to admit that the 8 inner gates is very valuable for development. Just after opening the fourth gate, Might Dewey already had a physical combat power close to a Jonin level, and it would be very powerful if he continued to develop it later. In addition, the recent protests in the Land of Wind have been very serious. But what you said before is more important, so I didn't mention it to you. Hiruzen took out a report. It was the same as last time, but this time it is an official communication report instead of a threat. Akaban opened it and took a look. It was indeed a letter from the Land of Wind, and it was transferred from the daimyo house, with some protests from the Land of Wind daimyo written on it. For example, someone smuggled comics, stole taxes, gold, and gems from the land of wind, smuggled bad comics, corrupted national thinking, and so on. Akaban glanced at Hiruzen. His face was not red at all, and he said, "Those people are really shameless, and they want precious items like gold and gemstones and so on from the land of wind people. This is not an equivalent transaction at all." Hearing it, Hiruzen was speechless for a while. Who didn't know how to do this? He was silent for a moment, took the letter back from Akaban, and said, "You have done a good job, that is, you did not end up on your own so that the country of wind has no excuses, but I have to say that in some ways you and your teacher are becoming more and more alike." Akaban had originally intended to deny it, but when he sensed someone coming, he immediately changed his words and said, "That is my honor. I know you want to go, get out, I will take care of the assignment of the preparation department." Hiruzen took a whiff from his cigarette pipes as he shoosed Akaban. Akaban bowed slightly and turned to go out. Just when he saw Danza coming from the corridor, he immediately greeted him. "Okay." Danza nodded slightly, but the corners of his mouth couldn't hide his smile. Although he knew that this kid was flattering him, he was still very happy when his disciple said so, and what Akaban did this time, the effect is indeed very unusual. The most valuable things in the land of wind are gold and gems, but these are also the least valuable in other countries. There are too many such things in that country, and they are very valuable in the hands of ninja from other countries, but for ordinary persons, they can only sell them to Land of Wind and Hidden Sand Village at a low price. In comparison, exchanging gold for comics and then exchanging comics for money in the hands of the rich will make more money. As far as Konoha is concerned, the reduction of gold in the Land of Wind and Hidden Sand Village will reduce the said country's military supplies. Even if it is only a small part, they will still be weakened to a certain extent. "Akaban, you fellow, come out to me, I want to beat you up." Outside the comic shop, many people yelled loudly, and the seats outside the door were noisy for a while. Others shouted, "Brother Yunling, give us the comics updated in more than a month, I want them all." They are the group of genin released from prison. This bunch of bastards didn't go home first, instead they ran to the comic shop. "Hey, is it okay if you don't go home and take a look?" Kurama Yunlang smiled like chrysanthemum and sent the comics, while kindly complained, "Brother Yunlang, don't worry, we have to settle accounts with Akaban. During this time, this guy has trained us miserably." Uchihario said loudly. "Oh. You want to settle accounts?" The kind and gentle voice sounded, but it sounded like a curse to everyone, eerie and terrifying. And they saw Akaban walk out from the lounge. It's not the shadow clone, but the main body that had just returned from the Hokage building using his flying thunder god jutsu. How could we do it? We are grateful to you. How could we be so strong if it weren't for you? Everyone immediately changed their tone, including Uchihario. During the 1-month special training, even though Akaban did not participate in the last 10 days, everyone also knows how strong Akaban is. Sakumo and Murasaki are strong enough, right? Sakumo went to the battlefield when he was only 13 years old. Although everyone does not understand Murasaki's strength very well, it is said that some time ago, he was also promoted to Chunin. And in an experimental duel, Murasaki used only one hand and didn't even use ninjutsu, so he is obviously much stronger than them. However, without exception, Akaban is the most abnormal. He is clearly very lazy, but his strength, they never saw its bottom. Every time they think they can surpass him, but he will always exert a strength stronger than them. For example, Sakumo, who was deeply taught last time. All in all, everyone just wants to vent their misfortune but not dared to fight. Cut. I finally came out of the preparation department. If you want to fight, fight. But leave me out of it. Shimi complained as he picked up the comic and laid lazily on the chair. Fighting or something is too tiring, and he has been training for more than a month while also vomiting, and he can't wait to spend his life in the village. Shimi, what are you going to do next? Akamichi Keiju asked while munching food. In this month, his body became a lot more sturdy. Although the fat is still the same thickness, he looks very reliable now. A smart person like me can't hide if he wants to hide. In a few days, there is a high probability that we will form a team with a certain Jonin and start a mission career with mission difficulty above sea level. Shimi said lightly. Fighting or something is too tiring, and he has been training for more than a month while also vomiting, and he can't wait to spend his life in the village. But although he wants to hide, he knows he can't hide. Alas, trouble always finds a way to locate him. Damn, do you have to say it? Haruo disdainfully sat down and continued reading the comics. Akaban must have just submitted the report, but I can't guess who it is. Shimi grabbed a handful of food from Keiju. Reading comics while eating seemed quite comfortable. Some genins performed very well in this test. According to the comprehensive assessment, they have reached the level of competence for tasks above the sea level, so they are allowed to graduate early and follow a jonin to form a 4-man team. Akaban sat down and explained, among them Anara Shimi, Akimichi Keiju, Yamane Kartake, Uchai Haruo, Inuzuka Ishii. Sure enough. Everyone is not surprised. This group of genin is indeed better than the others. Although some of them are slightly inferior in terms of strength, but their wisdom is superior. Well, I invite everyone to eat barbecue in the evening. During this time, go back and rest. After this period, except for the 15 genins who will follow a jonin, the rest will go back to the preparation department for training. Akaban sat down and started chatting with everyone. In the preparatory department, he is a teacher and these people are students, but since leaving the preparatory department, everyone is a classmate and friend, and there is no need to be too serious. These genins were quite aggrieved after being detained for a month. So after they came out, they watched all the updates they had accumulated before, and they were so excited that they couldn't hold back and they complained while reading. Some didn't have enough complaining, so they even left a message on the comment board and had a great time. Not long after, Yamano Izumi caravan arrived. In today's update, Naruto officially started the battle with Sasuke and ended with Tailed Beast transformation. There are more updates in One Piece. Ace and the Straw Hat group separated after meeting, and there were more and more members of the Baroque work. In the latest plot, Luffy and the others have formally fought against Baroque work, and they were unfortunately locked into a trap made by Sea Stone. Akaban took a look and asked the clone to help with the follow-up work. Anyway, the update has been completed, and the Shadow clone does not need to continue working for the time being. As long as he, having been busy for most of the day, it's not too much to treat yourself to a nap, right? Yamano Izumi was late for the comic a long time this time because they sent part of the One Piece comic to Land of Rivers in advance, so although Konoha and Land of Rivers were far away, they still received the update after it was finished printing. At this time, at the Keochuan town, the Land of River, a swordsman in black came to this town along the path in her memory, but what she saw was not what she remembered. This is a pirate town. Yiwu opened her mouth wide in surprise. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she would never believe that this was the town of Keochuan she had been to before. Are you a samurai who came here especially? On the side, a wandering warrior sitting at the entrance of the town in a shabby dress moved his turban up, and then raised his head and glanced at her. Yiwu froze for a moment, then nodded and said, "Yes, I heard that there are many samurai here, but isn't this a town called Keochuan Town? How come it's like this?" Keochuan is its previous name. Starting last month, this town was called Loketown. The samurai proudly said, "Along this road, you can still see the execution square. Except for the small island on the sea, it is almost the same as Loketown, but in the future, it will definitely become a Grand Line starting point." Loketown, the Grand Line. Yiwu was surprised. Are they in the comics? It's incredible that someone really transformed the land of river into such a place. She walked into the town. As the wandering warrior said, this side is almost exactly the same as the town of Roger in the comics. At the same time, the size of the town is larger than before. Walking along the street, she quickly saw a big river. This river runs through the whole country of river, going up to the land of thunder and earth, and down to the sea. And a dock was built in Keochuan town near the river bank. She turned around, deeply shocked by the changes in this town, and at the same time understood why the village had to give her a secret mission to investigate the land of river. Did Akaban do it? No, the village asked me to come here to investigate. It must not be that simple. Yiwu thought secretly and then went to the comic shop here. After traveling for a long time, she didn't have a chance to read comics. However, when she went to the comics shop, she did not at all see the opening gate in the comic shop, only the small door on the side was half hidden. "Hello, I heard that there are comics selling One Piece here. Is it not open now? All the comics are all sold out. If you want to read the comics, you must either go to the tavern in front or buy it from others at a high price," the shop owner said. In fact, for the shopkeepers, this kind of sales does no harm. If those people don't buy it, he still sells it at this price, and it takes a little more effort. After handing it over to those people, as long as the shipment arrives, they can be notified, and there is no need to keep someone to maintain it. "Okay, thank you," Yiwu said. Then she left and she couldn't help being surprised. It's because the comics are all sold. If the market is large enough and comics are taken away, it is definitely a profitable business. Who would dare to do this kind of business in such a chaotic place in the country of river? She gradually understood what her mission was. Investigating the people behind the one who was doing it is the purpose of her trip. But she needs to be careful, since seeing that the rebellious rebels dare not intervene in this transaction. The power behind it must be huge, and the strength of the leader should also be quite formidable. Yiwu came quietly to the tavern. Entering the tavern, she saw a large bookshelf with many comics on it. Except for Naruto, the rest of the comics from the Land of Fire are here. But the Land of Fire does not have what's in here, such as the Kafirim, and Love in the Desert and so on. In addition, he saw many decorations on the walls. Character statues, weapons copied from comics, and even some fruits that look like devil fruits on the counter. The influence of comic culture on this place is far stronger than that of the country of fire and Konoha. Yiwu sat down and read the comics for a while, ordered food and drinks by the way, and spent a lot of money. The price of this meal is almost more expensive than buying a few comics. She has a kind of déjà vu that Akaban must be controlling this in the shadows. Especially the sales mode and various decorations of this tavern are, especially like Akaban's handwriting. At this moment, a figure walked outside the door wearing a mask, looking very mysterious. Yiwu couldn't judge the opponent's strength, but from the feeling, she felt that this person was very strong. Facing this person, she has a kind of déjà vu, the feeling of an elite Chunin she felt when she was in childhood facing her father. Of course, this is just her feeling as a swordsman, but in a sense, it can already reflect many things. Is this guy the leader behind the tavern? Before long, the guy left. Yiwu struggled whether to track or not the masked man for a few seconds, but finally, she didn't dare to follow, because seeing that person, she unconsciously thought of the comics where Gecko Hyatt was hacked to death by Baki. If she catches up, she may end up not much better than that. After all, this is the chaotic land of River. After waiting for the other party to leave for a long time, she took a few breaths until she calmed down. Then Yiwu looked around for a while. The rest of the people didn't seem to feel this and continued to eat and drink, very happy. She rested for a while, her thoughts gradually became emotional. No, my strength may have been discovered. The power of the curse seal will change the body. It is indeed a good power. But why am I so obsessed with Sharingan? Orochimaru couldn't figure it out. The world of ninjutsu is vast, and the more you explore, the more you feel insignificant. Although the Sharingan is good, in his opinion, there is no need to spare all pursuits on it. It is just a Keki Genkai after all. People always have pursuits, and if they get something, they will have new goals. Tsunade said lightly. It sounds reasonable, so what is your current pursuit? Orochimaru asked as he stuffed things into his mouth. This is the food that Akaban brought when he came to visit the prison. Of course, Orochimaru was also easy to handle, mainly because Akaban knew that Tsunade was doing research here, so he came here especially. Enhance medical capabilities. Tsunade answered without hesitation. What's next? The future, who knows? She paused and then continued to mobilize chakra to rescue the rat that had been tortured by the big snake. Perhaps. Avoid herself being helpless in the face of the death of loved ones like in the comics. She does not accept this tragic ending. Tsunade's mood was disordered, and an inadvertent chakra input increased, and the mouse's muscles suddenly tightened, and it jumped up and down. After more than 10 seconds, it collapsed to the ground and stopped moving. What's the situation? Orochimaru didn't care about eating, so he ran over immediately. It died. Tsunade was embarrassed. Unfortunately, Orochimaru is a bit regretful. Since it is not an ordinary mouse, but a special mouse produced after some chakras from the summoned beast are integrated into its body. But even without me, it will die very quickly, because your transformation makes it consume its vitality too quickly. Excuse. Subsequently, the two began an academic debate. After an argument, Tsunade suspended her research and left the research room in a depressed manner. Orochimaru didn't care at first, but after studying for a while, the more he thought about it, the more embarrassed he became, so he chased her out, and he found Tsunade based on his perception ability and found that this girl was with Akaban. As the special training is over, Akaban treats everyone to dinner. He originally planned to eat barbecue, but it happened that the hot pot restaurant of the Akimichi clan opened its doors. It is worth mentioning that because Akaban gave a lot of recipes and hot pot base ingredients, he has a lot of dividends. After many considerations, Akaban chose to take them here to eat. Orochimaru took a look, then turned around to leave. Since you are all ready, come in and let's eat together, and you should also have something to say, right? Akaban knocked on the table. Oh. Orochimaru knew it was telling him, and came over and sat down. Are you studying Senjutsu Chakra? Akaban asked. I just transform and purify the energy from the summoned beast, and then inject it into the mouse, but obviously there is a problem with the energy purification process. The mouse has become crazy and has been imitating the walking posture of the snake. Orochimaru said with his hands resting his chin, thoughtfully, does that energy belong to the Sage Chakra? It should be, and Senjutsu Chakra and Sage Mode are related. For example, my summoned beast comes from Shikotsu Forest. If the body meets the requirement of absorbing natural energy, you can enter Shikotsu Forest training Sage Mode, but it is a pity. Having said this, Tsunade sighed softly. The reason she was in a bad mood this afternoon was because she thought of herself from the mouse perspective. The mouse absorbed its power and its lifespan was greatly reduced. Comparing herself to it, isn't she like a mouse? Weak, fragile and short-lived. Even if the creation of regeneration is developed, with the corrosive nature of the wet-bone forest, God knows how much life will be lost, and it is possible to die in the wet-bone forest. She is not afraid of death, but this method of death is too unworthy. I had a hunch before that the mouse might become serpentine if it continues to transform. If the Sage model is based on a similar principle, there will be corresponding changes after people practice it. The curse mark you painted should be something similar. Orochimaru unconsciously thinks of the curse seal form that has frequently appeared in the recent plot. The rat has signs of snake transformation, so the curse imprint must have absorbed natural energy before appearing in its physical form. Almost. Akaban kept putting food in the pot. The curse seal itself is the Sage Mode of Ryuchi Cave semi-finished product and Orochimaru understands it so well. Everyone has some ideas about Sage Mode. Akaban yearns for Senju Hashirama's Sage Mode with only partial tattoos, but Tsunade is worried that she may not be able to train Sage Mode. As for Orochimaru, he is thinking about whether he can successfully accommodate Senjutsu Chakra by changing to a larger animal. However, the large animals around Konoha are very limited. The deer. The Nara clan will kill him. They didn't talk for a long time and soon the dishes were all available and everyone started to eat. 70% of genin here is juniors, but after training together, everyone doesn't feel unfamiliar, and all of them ate happily. The Akimichi clan is very enthusiastic. The price is 20% off, and the quantity is still very large. After the meal, everyone left happily. The next day, when Akaban got up at noon, the Akimichi hot pot restaurant was already full. It's different from the one who went to eat hot pot yesterday. Everyone will not only eat hot pot this time but also foods that appear in comics such as Mapo tofu and golden fried rice. Vaguely, he seemed to see people who looked like the third Hokage. This guy used the transformation jutsu, but his eyes and pipe were still exposed, and Danza seemed to have also come, using the transformation jutsu like the third Hokage. But embarrassingly, he and third Hokage entered the door at the same time, and the two looked at each other and almost recognized each other at the same time. Akaban didn't continue watching the scene, then returned to the comic shop. Izumi Yamano came early, and although he already sent some of them, but the number was relatively small and it was not enough. As soon as it was delivered to the village, it seemed that most of the people in Uchiha were waiting. The plot is in the critical period of Sasuke's defection, and they pay much attention to the plot. Like now. In the morning, the Uchiha people who did not go to the guards sat together and began ideological education. But the so-called ideological education is actually Ikeban playing the remaining set, letting everyone read the comics, and then talk about their feelings. Sasuke is so eager for power, but he still chooses to let go of Naruto. It feels strange. Actually, it's just him badmouthing Naruto. But deep in his heart, he still cares about Naruto very much and is reluctant to kill him. A group of ninjas talked. Uchiha Ensho leaned on the side and did not speak for a long time after reading. For the time being, only the Hokage, Danza, Uchiha Yuan, and Ikeban knew about the news that he awakened the Mangekyo, and none of the others knew it. And so, Ensho, what do you think? Someone asked him. Because of this period, Uchiha Ensho looked weird and sighed for so much more time than before. Nothing is more important than a friend who cares about you. Uchiha Ensho clenched his fists. I am eager to protect our companions and close relatives in danger. Such emotions can also stimulate our pupil power and enhance our eyes. And I firmly believe this. On the side, Uchiha Yuan's mouth raised slightly. He did not announce the news of Uchiha Ensho awakening, just to establish a model. At the right time and place, when Uchiha Ensho is guarding his companions or loved ones, he can show his Mangekyo, and everyone will be more convinced that even with a guardian mood, they can awaken their Mangekyo. As for whether it can be awakened, this is not important. The important thing for the family is their continuation and survival. As long as it continues, the strength of the family will gradually become stronger. Moreover, after his analysis, these approaches can indeed be used to awaken their eyes. My father said it well. A shout came from the crowd. Without looking, they know it is Uchiha Ensho's son. Uchiha Ryo is also well known in the clan due to him being a repeater before. It is said that he was almost repeated in the preparatory examination. But when he came back from the preparation department, this kid was reborn. Both his strength and his thoughts have undergone a qualitative change, and even his Sharingan has been awakened and become Tutamo. Even Uchiha Yuan has to admire Ikeban's brainwashing ability. At a deep mountain, a young man climbed up the mountain and placed a comic book in a clearing. His movements were dull and ignorant, and he was obviously controlled by some kind of power. After putting down the comics, he walked down the mountain with a dull look. After he left, a vine grew in the soil. The vine held the comic and took it to the hidden cave. Madara took a few steps and picked up the comic from the ground. With his current level of fusion, he can already use some wood-style ninjutsu. 8 words. He was thoughtful, then opened the comic and began to read it. Looking at the back from the past, Madara was silent for a moment, and then sneered, "What a stupid thing, if Orochimaru can beat Uchiha, why design and ask for Sharingan?" He didn't cherish the truly precious Sharingan, and pursued some curse seal. He is not good enough, ruthless enough, and hesitant to act and think badly. What major event can such a person make? Madara sighed. But after all, his younger brother unconsciously appeared in his mind. If the appearance of Izuna in childhood is painted in the style of a comic, it probably looks like this, and the characters of the two are similar in some places. Izuna, that hateful Senju Tobirama, he died too early. That's it for this part, guys. Hope you like the video. Like, share and subscribe the channel. And also tell me in the comment section down below if you have any recommendation. Thanks for watching.